Right now, my topic is sexual harassment at workplace. You know what, in India, 52.22% of our children are sexually abused. This is the Ministry of Women and Child Development's statistic. While I talk here, let me tell you, some children are being raped there. While I talk here, I am very 101% sure that some of us here are a survivor, because that's what the statistics says. That's what I have seen and experienced. I will discuss mostly from the law that is applicable to us, number one, and number two, based on my experience that I have seen. 96% of our women across the country says that somewhere in their life they've been sexually harassed. Somewhere in their life. It could be in the bus. It could be while walking on the alley of that street. Some men will be winking at you. Some men will be pinching at you. They would look at you, give you a very dirty look, and you don't feel good. You don't feel nice. You know what? We women have a very special instinct where we could sense that the man who's looking at me is not looking with a very good intention. You could feel that. And when you feel that, you're emotionally so tormented, you feel so dirty to yourself. Prior to 1997, 1992, there was no law that addresses, specific law that addresses the issues of sexual harassment at workplace. It only came about when a woman by the name Bhandari did, a social worker in the Rajasthan government, while she was performing her duties, as a result, the women came together, an NGO came together, and they filed a public interest litigation at Supreme Court. When the court intervened, because the court found that it was mandatory to have a very specific law relating to women at workplace. Today, we have about 41% of our women are coming into the workforce. All of these women here in this room, all of us are already into the workforce. Prior to 20 years back, most of the women stays home. We work at home, we cook, we take care of our children, we go to the battlefield, helping to our family members, taking care of many things. But today, all of us are standing shoulder to shoulder along with men. As a result, I am also very vulnerable to sexual harassment at workplace. A lot of women, I'm sure, if I ask all of you, you will have your own share of experience, how you've been sexually harassed. When I walked that day on the street, I was coming at 11 p.m., no? And that man, the way he looked at me, oh! You could only sense it, you could only feel it in your body, and you could only feel it. It's hard to express with words. What Father Ravi just mentioned about the structural system that we hold on for our law, Article 14, right to equality. It was on the basis of women thus have the right to work. As a result, they also have the right to be protected. The Supreme Court made one of their bases was that. Article 15, protection against discrimination. If you're being discriminated at your workplace, we will not tolerate. The Constitution will not tolerate. Right to practice any profession. I'm a woman, Dr. Lana is a woman, but we are coming into the workforce that we have the right to practice what we want to do, what we wish to do, what God wants us to do. We have that right to practice. Article 21, right to lie. You know what? As a result of sexual harassment in workplace, I have seen a lot of women not being able to perform, not being able to live their life well. When you face that sexual harassment at workplace, at times, things get so severe that it affects their mental capacity. As a result, they go into depression where they're unable to be effective, efficient, and not able to give the best production to the organization they work for, to the company that they work for. As a result of this case, it formally recognized sexual harassment as a violation of human rights. So remember, when you've been sexually harassed at your workplace, your basic human rights has been violated. It also acknowledged workplace safety as a part of gender equality, right to equality, the invocation of Article 14. It also expanded constitutional protection for women. It imposed responsibility on employers. Your employers must have the law. They must have a basic foundation how you want to be protected when you go and work for that organization, for that companies. It filled a legislative vacuum through the judicial activism. For the first time in India, workplace sexual harassment was treated not as merely as a misconduct, but a discrimination and a constitutional issue. Thus, the Vishaka judgment, that is the case, became the legal and moral foundation of workplace sexual harassment law in India. The judgment remained a landmark in our Indian constitutional and gender justice jurisprudence because it transformed our workplace, a safety from private concerns into a matter of fundamental rights, dignity, and equality. I will now go, that's a brief history of how the law, of how this sexual harassment at workplace came about. I know when this first law came, some men, they said, "Arre, abhi to na ladki log ko leave bhi nahi देंगे." Some men were, this is not to threaten men. This is big. This is not at all to threaten any man, but this is to shoulder the equality and protect each other. To not look at men as your competitors or women. I will also not look at the male counter as my competitors. But we need to look at each other from the place of shouldering responsibility. So, what is sexual harassment under the POSH? I will say POSH. When I say POSH, it means sexual harassment at workplace, yeah? Sexual harassment includes any unwelcome act, behavior of a sexual nature, whether direct or implied. It could be physical contact or advancement. Pinching. I know when we were first coming to Delhi, we travel a lot by bus, right? You this is special. Men, for some reasons, they like to pinch your thighs. They like to pinch you. They like to kick. So that amounts to sexual harassment at workplace. Requests for sexual favors. Quid pro quo. A lot of times, I know this is very common in the call centers. I know this is very common at where young people are there. Because they will say, okay, here's a new joinee. They're in a probation period. And if you want to permanent, I will start asking for, okay, the way they looked at you, sometimes they scan you. When you feel uncomfortable, speak up. Just be very polite, but be very firm in the way you address such issues. Don't stay silent. Don't skip away. I know our people have a tendency of being very submissive, we shy away from addressing such issues. Don't be shy away. Speak up when you need to. When such things happen, you have to. But if you're enjoying, Manleki, you're enjoying that kind of moving, that kind of thing that a man may be doing, it would not amount to sexual harassment. Sexually colored remarks. For example, it is Friday, and I know in a lot of workplaces, Fridays they call it a casual dress. You're asked to dress however way you want. So you wear your t-shirts, that disco t-shirt, and at your chest, some words I know has some words right there. The man look at you, sexy. It is sexually colored. Do not tolerate it. It starts with small things. It amounts to sexual harassment at workplace. Showing pornography. It amounts to sexual harassment at workplace. Inappropriate jokes and images. Aaj tu non-veg khaungi na, that kind of words. Unacceptable. That amounts to sexual harassment at workplace. Unwanted touching. A man touches you on your shoulder, comes back, you're working on your table or you're working elsewhere, comes and touch you like that. You don't want it, sir, you touch me. I don't enjoy that. Be very humble, but be very firm when you say that. When you are addressing such things, your tone matters. Your body language matters when you address such things. Repeated invitation despite refusal. Well, Friday evening, tomorrow is holiday, Saturday is a chutti din. It could be your weekly off, could be Tuesday, could be Monday, could be any day. But a day before your release, comes and asks you, Kal kaha ja raha hai? Kya karaoge? All these things, if I come and ask you, men might come and ask you. If you don't enjoy it, if you don't like it, say, that's my private personal thing, I will not say. Unless you enjoy it, don't say it. And if he keeps on saying that, it amounts to sexual harassment at workplace. Online, I know a lot of people, a lot of offices are now going online, work from home. So you will have a lot of online meetings, through emails, through chats, through other social media means. If there is AI line that has a sexual nuances, that has a sexual connotations, you can sense it, but you can't say it. If you sense such things, avoid it and address it. Do not stay silent. It amounts to sexual harassment at workplace. As a result of all these things, sometimes there could be, definitely there's a repercussion. Very hostile environment could be there. For example, you're going into the office early in the morning at 8:30 a.m. You're reporting, good morning, sir. He does not look at you at your eyes, and he says, good morning. And he tells you in a very unprofessional, very rough tone, all the things they might scold you. When they scold you, when they yell at you, those are all as a result of that approach, and you have not given in, it could happen. It amounts to sexual harassment at workplace. When such things happen, for sure enough, your company, your organization will have an IC, Internal Complaint Committee. Earlier, they call it, prior to 2019, they call it ICC, but after the amendment, it is called IC. Your company is supposed to write it, zero tolerance for sexual harassment at workplace. The company has to write that kind of information through a poster with all the names of the members recorded immediately. The key elements is unwork. Harassment, sexual harassment. You understand the word sexual already? The word harassment means tormented. You feel small. You feel bad. Your emotions. The moment you feel such things, it is amount to sexual harassment at workplace. So be very aware. While you're aware, make sure that you speak up. Speak up. If you want to build a very strong case, immediately you can email or WhatsApp. Good morning, sir. Good afternoon or good evening, sir. While coming into the office this morning at 9:30 a.m., the way you look at me, the way you said so and so words to me, I felt very uncomfortable. Please do not repeat such things in future. Sincerely. Write it your name, send it. You're building your case. You're building your evidence. That's how you build your case. Because when you file a complaint, that time you will say, Madam Pehana, I have already warned this guy not to do this to me. And this is the information, this is the evidence that I have. So you've already collected the evidence. Remember that. Always remember, unwelcome physical contact could be touching, brushing, hugging without your consent. Without your consent. A manager repeatedly touching an employee's shoulder, despite objection, definitely amounts to sexual harassment at workplace. Making appropriate comment about your appearances, about your body, about your face, about your chest. It's unacceptable. It amounts to sexual harassment at workplace. Explicit sharing of images, nude videos, nude messages. It amounts to sexual harassment at workplace. Any unwelcome conduct. It could be staring, because some people have the tendency of staring at you right from your eyes till your toe. If you feel uncomfortable, kya hua? So you must be able to confront that very professionally, not in a violent way, not in a disrespectful way, but in a very polite and yet very firm manner. Any inappropriate gesture must be addressed. Every company, the law says, this law says every company must have an internal committee. And any company that has an employee of more than 10 must set up an IC. So when you go and work in any company, the company gives you an orientation. On the day of your orientation, hey, these are the people in our committee. If you have any issues relating to sexual harassment at workplace, you can approach to us. That is how the company must provide you. Ask for it. If the company cannot tell you, okay, may I know? Ask a lot of questions when you go and enter in the company. A company, the IC must have a presiding officer. It will have a presiding officer more. The law says that it must be a senior person, a senior woman manager. At least 2 employees, and that also the law says that it must be accompanied by women, 1 external member from an NGO or a legal background. The committee must function independently and very confidentially. Be confidential For example, you file a complaint to the IC that I've been sexually harassed on this, by this, and this is how he did it. The IC must keep it as a confidential information. Yeah? So when I go in as an external member for any company, I go and sign a non-disclosure agreement that any information I have regarding a case of sexual harassment, it will be confidential. The employee's right, your right is to work in a very safe working environment, that you will be treated with dignity and respect, that you will file any complaint without any fear and shame, that you will receive a very fair hearing and all the information will be kept confidential. You will be thoroughly protected against retaliation and victimization. A lot of times what happens is that what I have seen is, I know if you're a young girl, you go and file a complaint. The man comes and retaliates. They attack you. But the complaint is supposed to protect you from such kind of retaliation. Number one. The company is supposed to protect you from victimization. How people gossip. Gossip in our country and gossip in our culture seems very common. So people, somehow they come to know. And they'll say, oh, it seems this is what has happened. When such gossip happens to you or to anybody, make sure that you be the one to break the cycle of that gossip, such gossip. Break that cycle of gossip and stop it there. The company is supposed to protect you from such kind of victimization or re-victimization. Filing a complaint. How do you file a complaint? Complaint must be filed before the internal committee within 3 months from the date of incident. For example, a person has sexually harassed you in the month of April. Then you have April, May, June. Till June, you have the time to file a complaint. However, quite likely, this is soon going to change, that the law will give a more extended time. The complaint should have the following information: detail of the incident, what time, how, where, when, date and place, name of the parties involved. If you have a supporting evidence, it could be WhatsApp message, it could be email, it could be on your Instagram, it could be on your Facebook, it could be on the WhatsApp status wall. All those things must be accompanied. For example, the gravity of that harassment sometimes could be very severe, and you're not in a position to file that. However, you discuss this to your relatives, to your friends, your friend on your behalf, your family on your behalf, can file that complaint. Please remember that you can seek help from your friends and your families. Inquiry proceedings. The moment your complaint is received by the company that you're working for, it must be dealt immediately. Both the parties must be heard. It has a quasi-judicial body where evidence will be examined. You will be called, both of you will be called. Information will be cross-checked. Confidentiality is maintained. No public disclosure is permitted, which is why when people go for appeal at the higher court, if you're not happy with the IC recommendation, yes, X versus so-and-so company. That's how your name is protected. During the inquiry interim relief, you can be given leave. I know for the companies that I have been involved, usually the company gives even a month paid leave. A month paid leave if the harassment is severe. immediately the person whom you have complained will immediately transferred elsewhere. Change in the reporting structure. If you are working for that, if the harasser is your manager, immediately there will be a change in the reporting structure. Responsibilities of the employees. Your responsibility. Maintain professional conduct. Respect the workplace boundaries. Participate in awareness program. Operate honestly during inquiry. Avoid misuse of passive-aggressive complaining mechanism. This law promotes accountability from everyone in the workplace. I know there are a lot of false complaints as well. So the Act recognizes the intentional false and malicious complaint may attract action. However, mere inability to prove allegation does not mean the complaint is false. Lack of evidence should not automatically result in punishment against the complainant. The safe part is important to avoid discouraging genuine victims from reporting harassment. Push in our modern time, in the post-modern world, today, work from home situation, virtual meetings, online communication, work-related travels, office parties, events. There's so many events. You have parties late night, and you have duties as a result of that. You go and attend your duties late at night. Many things would happen. The law is aware of that. So please be mindful to use this law as a shield to protect yourself. And also, none of us should misuse as well. This workplace is not just a legal requirement. This is not just a legal requirement. It is so essential for equality, productivity, and it should give us human dignity, a value to oneself. You're a valued human being. You have a valued soul. So that when you go out and work, you must enjoy the work so that you are effective, efficient, and be productive in whatever workforce that you're in today. Supposing you're being sexually harassed by your neighbor. In that situation and cases, you are forced to go to the police station. The police is supposed to take the FIR immediately. Earlier, there is a substantive law and a procedural law. Earlier, we called it IPC, Indian Penal Code. From July 2024, we now call it Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, CRPC, Code of Criminal Procedure. Now is replaced by Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita 2023. So after this, there's a lot of changes in the criminal, in the name itself. However, the content information is all the same. Filing an FIR is very important when you've been sexually harassed by your neighbor, by your floor mate. Please, you have to do that. When you go and file an FIR, which Raijang will be taking, I will not go into that. But again, out there also, please make sure that you put in an information that is very accurate, appropriate. Cannot exaggerate information just to strengthen your case. Let me tell you, a lot of times our people have a tendency of information. We think that exaggerated information will make our case stronger. But when we lie, when we exaggerate, our case only weakens. Because whatever information you write in the FIR will be subjected to cross-examination at the time of trial in the court. So please be mindful of that, is what I would say. The criminal proceedings, sexual harassment, stalking, voyeurism, assault, rape. The sections later on I'm sure will be addressed by Kaijang, or to save our time, I will not go into that. Now, just recapping, filing a complaint within 3 months if you've been sexually harassed at your workplace. IC must send it. It must be addressed within 7 days. Respondent must reply to the complaint within 10 days. Inquiry proceedings, examination should be completed within 90 days. Submission of report within 10 days. Employer's action must take place within 60 days. Appeal, you can file an appeal within 90 days in case you're not happy with the company's IC proceedings. That's what I will do on the sexual harassment at workplace. I'm also supposed to cover the POCSO, Prevention of Children from Sexual Offenses Act. Prior to 2012, there was no law to address when a child of below 18 years has been, if they've been raped. They're only dealing with the Code of Criminal Procedure and the IPC. In 2007, when the Ministry of Women and Child Development came up with a study that 52.22% of our children are being sexually abused in their homes, by their neighbors, by their relatives, by young people. A lot of the findings also has happened that this is also happening within their own homes. Within their own homes. So the lawmaker, our legislator, came up with a very stringent, strong law for children below 18 years. And this law applies to both male and female. It's not that male are not sexually abused. Even male are also sexually abused. Male boys are also equally vulnerable as much as women. The penetrative sexual assault. Any act where there is a penetration, even slight in a child's body, it could be vagina, it could be anus, it could be mouth, or forcing the child to do, would amount to penetrative sexual assault. Example, an adult inserting a body or object into a child's body, private part, would amount to penetrative sexual assault. Forcing a child to perform oral sex constitute an offense under Section 3 of the POCSO. The Section 4 discusses about the punishment. Punishment is minimum 10 years imprisonment, may extend to life. I wish that it would do even more. Like in US, people would give 100 years, even if they would not give up to 100 years. Example, if a teacher commits a penetrative sexual assault, it's minimum 10 years of jail. I know there are students who have been sexually abused, who have been raped by their own children when they were in their school days. In such a cases, the teacher will suffer a punishment of minimum 10 years. Section 5, aggravated penetrative sexual assault. It is indeed, there's a lot of change in this section already. It's a more serious, such as a victim, a child below 12 years, by a teacher, by a person in authority, like teacher, doctors, police, relatives, commits this offense. A gang rape, use of weapon or threat, causing serious injury. For example, a bus driver sexually assaults a child of 10 years old, or a child is raped by a multiple person, would amount to aggravated penetrative sexual assault. The punishment in these cases, the legislator have made it that it will be life, it will not extend to life imprisonment or death penalty, minimum 20 years imprisonment. Sexual assault, non-penetrative, sexual contact without penetration would also extend to sexual intent. For example, touching child's private part, forcing a child to touch someone, kissing, and inappropriate touching with sexual intent would amount to sexual assault under Section 7 of the POCSO. Section 8 talks about the imprisonment from 3 to 5 years and fine. I wish that this is suffer more, because the impact of sexual abuse that the children suffer, that the women suffer, that the men suffer. I've seen a lot of boys and girls who goes into a very deep depression. Later, at the later age of their life, they will have a very passive-aggressive behavioral issues, relational problem. So the impact has a very negative outcome in their later age of their lives. Section 9, aggravated penetrative sexual assault. It's more serious, non-penetrative, such as abuse by a person in authority, like teachers, police, guardians, relative, abuse to a disabled child, a mentally retarded child, an orphan child, and if the offense is repeated, for example, a tuition teacher repeatedly catches a student inappropriate, would amount to aggravated penetrative sexual assault. The punishment for that is 5 to 10 years. Sexual harassment, again, which I will not repeat, sexual comment, showing pornography to a child, repeated inappropriate gesture, online message to a child, sending sexual connotation message to a minor on social media. It could be WhatsApp, it could be their Instagram account, it could be their Facebook accounts. Section 13 and 15 deals with, again, using pornography, storing child's pornographic material, and distributing such content. I know in India, the traffic for pornography has increased by 22 times. As a result, our country should anticipate a lot of more rapes, because our internet traffic, our Sarkar so far have not made any law to ban the pornography. So a lot more problems may anticipate in our country. Attempt and abetment. A lot of times there are situations where a person would help, encourage, attempt to commit a crime is punishable. If you are indirectly helping a boy to seduce a young child, it would amount to abetment. The key features of this POCSO Act is to protect all children below 18 years old for both boys and girls. Consent of a minor is not valid law yet. It's not a valid law yet. For example, but she agreed to have sex with me. She agreed to have that physical relation with me. He agreed to have sex. That does not hold any validity yet in our country. There is a very strict punishment already to make sure that we do not tolerate child sexual abuse in our homes, in our institutions, in our society, in our country overall. One of the key features is also a fast-track special courts, so that the cases are done immediately. Section 35 of the law says, of the POCSO law says that the case shall, as far as possible, shall complete within 1 year. But in reality, that is very difficult. Every proceedings is a child-friendly legal proceedings, from the FIR, right from filing FIR until the adjudication of the case. But while the law says that, I know practically it's still a challenge in our country. We're yet to arrive there. So that's a brief information of POCSO and sexual harassment at workplace.